Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down a really sharp framework from Virtualization Options LLC. It's all about a concept that every executive needs to get their head around before that next big tech purchase. It's called total cost of ownership. And trust me, what you think you're paying is almost never the whole story. Okay, let's just dive right in with a question you've probably asked yourself a dozen times when you're looking at a new technology investment. It seems so simple, right? But the true answer, well, it's usually buried way, way below that initial price tag. So just how much are we talking about? Well, research shows that a staggering 40 to 60% of your total IT application costs are often hidden or completely unexpected. That's right, almost half, sometimes more than half, of the final bill just appears out of nowhere. That's the kind of thing that can turn a smart investment into a budget disaster. And this really gets to the heart of the issue, what we could call the sticker price illusion. We all do it. We focus on that purchase price, but that's just the tip of a very, very large iceberg. The majority of the costs, the ones that really add up, are all lurking right below the surface. So, if the sticker price is basically a distraction, how do we see the full picture? How do we map out that entire iceberg before we crash into it? Well, the answer is a method called total cost of ownership, or TCO for short. Think of TCO as being like financial sonar for your company. It's a formal way to assess every single cost, the obvious ones and the hidden ones that you're going to run into over the entire life of an application. We're usually talking about a 3 to 5 year window. It's what lets you finally see everything that's hiding below the waterline. Okay, so what exactly is down there? What makes up that huge, submerged part of the iceberg we keep talking about? It's not just one thing, but a whole bunch of different ongoing expenses that can really pile up over time.
Now, take a look at this breakdown. This is where it gets really eye-opening. That initial acquisition cost, the price tag you see up front, is often only, 20 to 30% of the total spend. The biggest piece of the pie, by a long shot, those ongoing operational costs.
So what are these operational costs anyway? Well, they're all the little things that add up day after day. The stuff that never shows up on a sales quote. We're talking about the electricity to run the servers, the salaries for your IT team who have to patch and update everything, and even the time your people spend just managing the relationship with the vendor. These are the costs that just quietly drain your budget. And here is one of the most critical findings in the research. The single biggest ongoing cost is very often your own people. The time your team spends managing, fixing, and updating software is a massive internal expense. It's not on any invoice you'll get from a vendor, but believe me, it hits your bottom line hard. Okay, this is all great in theory, right? But let's make it real. How does a TCO analysis actually help you when you're facing a common business decision, like figuring out the best way to roll out a new piece of software?
A lot of the time, the choice comes down to this. Do you buy the software and run it on your own servers? That's called on-premises. Or do you subscribe to it as a service in the cloud, which is SaaS? These two options have completely different cost structures. On-prem means a huge upfront capital expense, or CapEx. The cloud model, on the other hand, turns that into a predictable, recurring operational expense, or OpEx.
And here's what that actually looks like with a sample CRM system. The difference is pretty stark. The on-premises model has these giant costs right at the beginning for licenses and hardware. The SaaS model avoids all that, but you pay that steady subscription fee year after year. Understanding that trade-off is absolutely crucial for your budget and for managing cash flow. But here's the thing, getting a handle on these numbers isn't just about pinching pennies. When you do a proper TCO analysis, you elevate the conversation. It stops being about cost cutting and becomes a powerful tool for making smarter, more strategic decisions for the entire business. This is why TCO is so much more than an accounting exercise. It's a strategic weapon. When you have this data, you can walk into negotiations with vendors from a position of strength. You can make your financial planning way more accurate, and maybe most importantly, you can finally calculate the true return on your investment.
And what happens if you ignore TCO? Well, it can get ugly fast. The research points to one company whose big new system ran 40% over budget. And why? Because they completely failed to account for the hidden costs of making it work with their old systems and the huge amount of training their employees actually needed. So, this is really the bottom line. When you start using TCO, you change the game. IT spending stops being just another line item expense that you have to approve. Instead, it becomes a core strategic decision, one that you can actively shape and control to get the best outcome for the business. And that leaves you with one final critical question to ask your team before you sign off on any other major technology purchase. By using a TCO analysis, you'll finally have the framework you need to find the real answer.